Ryan Leaf doesn't eat like that. Maybe he once did. The former number 2 overall pick in 1998 and friend of the show and, of course, contributor to NFL Network. He joins us here in the Man Cave. You're going to fill in for me on Friday, by the way.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Nervous?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many of your guest hosts show up, and see how the sausage is made to make sure. I mean, I don't want to let you down.
Oh, you're already putting in for extra credit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing here, all right?
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I carry baggage with me, so I better be good. I don't have I don't get a second chance.
Oh, okay.
To make a first impression because of the baggage I bring. So I better be good with my first opportunity or you don't get asked back.
Yeah, but part of the reason we love you is the baggage you do bring, though.
Well, I know, but in most places that's fun to be a guest, but not a guest host. All right? The guest host part is like, oh, you better be good at it because that's my seat. This seat over here, I can just be moved out of the room while you do the other 3 hours, All
right, let me ask you about Russell Wilson because I brought this up last year. Can you play yourself out of the Hall of Fame? And it feels like he has. But it feels like there was a precipitous drop in confidence, performance, and the numbers weren't bad last year. But why does Sean Payton want to move on from Russell Wilson?
I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger ego out there than Sean Payton for somebody who hasn't accomplished as much as some other people too. He did not want him from day one. And for whatever he had to try to cover up to make it look like he did not want him. He was stuck with him. And when he had the opportunity to finally get it done and get him out, it was going to happen. I thought Russell played, pretty darn good last year.
But is this more about the coach maybe than it is the quarterbacks? We're missing really what we should be focusing on?
Yeah, I don't think that the conversation should be around necessarily Russell Wilson's lack of production. He produced last year to a point where they were in playoff contention. And Denver decided, hey, we'd rather, not be on the hook for all that money if he were to get hurt than to maybe push for the playoffs, actually. And so that was disappointing to see as a fan of Russell Wilson's, a fan of the Denver Broncos, to see them kind of go away from that. And I don't know what they do. I heard Seton talk about it. I mean, where do you start the clock with Sean Payton? Because, I mean, they are in 2 years of dead cap hell. So how do you go about building a true roster that can compete in a division where a team seemingly feels like it has a chokehold on everybody right now? I don't know. I'm glad that Russell's gone. I bet you he is happy too. I think the name you used right immediately, the Pittsburgh Steelers, is an optimal spot for him, especially if they can get him for the league minimum. You don't quite know if other teams will want to do that because they have to negotiate with the Broncos and everything like that. You don't want to stick it to them necessarily if you were going and trying to do some business with them in the next year or two or things like that.
Oh, so you think that these teams may take a little bit of that financial heat away from the Broncos?
I do, because of the personal interactions between teams when they go about that business. If you walk into it, I think the Haslam situation where they gave that money to Deshaun Watson is going to do them detrimentally in future, interactions within teams, because they were like, you about screwed us on this. And we're not going to let that happen. We're going to hold you accountable for it for some time. So, I don't think necessarily it's just a foregone conclusion that he walks in and it's a league minimum and the Broncos are on the hold for all that extra money.
Okay, if you're Russell Wilson, where do you want to go?
Well, I liked your point about I want to go to a place where I think I can win. And clearly, Pittsburgh is a place where you can win because Mike Tomlin has showcased that every single year he's been there. What they've been missing since Ben Roethlisberger is competent quarterback play. Mason Rudolph, even at the end of the year, was pretty darn good, but when you got into the playoffs, I was on the sideline calling that game for Westwood One, and I saw it. Josh Allen was just this much better than him in that game at Highmark Stadium. So Russell could bring that to the table if they are able to keep T.J. Watt healthy, who's the most dynamic defensive player in the league, I think, if he stays healthy. A good quarterback play where you don't turn it over and you get some big plays down, I think that could be a good spot for him.
Yeah, I just wonder, you're going to have a chip on your shoulder. You're going to want to go
It's going to be hard.
Yeah?
It's going to be hard wherever he goes.
Why?
This is hard to explain to people, but when quarterbacks are drafted, most likely in the top 10, a second stop, regardless of geographic change, it's incredibly difficult to be successful somewhere else. And Russell isn't that guy, but what Russell was able to accomplish turned him into essentially a franchise quarterback. And him going to another place has been rather difficult, and it has been for everybody else. You see, Jim Plunkett as the number 1 overall pick, able to go from the Patriots to the Raiders and have success. Peyton Manning, of course, still unknown for Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre was able to have some in Minnesota. It's rarity. It's a real rarity for somebody to have a Super Bowl trophy in their trophy case and then go and be successful somewhere else. And now we're getting in the later stages of his career. I'd love to see the resurgence. I love Russell Wilson as a person. I think what he's been able to accomplish. I think sometimes, as you and I have talked about, the neurocognitive way he went about things with Trevor Moawad and the neutral thinking has made him come across sometimes almost like a simulation. But that was managed. That was the way it was supposed to be. And it's really difficult to maybe kind of manage that in the locker room when you don't have the person that's helping you filtrate that there available to you.
But is this more mental or physical? Oh, it is.
I think it's more of a mental thing. I think
and you were talking about Trevor Moawad, his spiritual advisor.
Yeah, he was more of a
coach.
It was a mind coach that they met at IMG, and Trevor was also someone that helped me when I got out of prison. Like, we started working on that mindset, and it's affected me greatly. I mean, look at where I am 10 years from now. I mean, 10 years ago today, I was sitting in a prison cell, and now you're just...
Yeah, but how does he help you mentally? You're physically out of a prison cell. Was it you couldn't get mentally out of a prison cell?
Yeah, I think for a little while I was... Listen to this. The day I woke up after my first day out of prison, my hometown newspaper ran a cartoon that said, "Lock up your medicine cabinets, Ryan Leaf's out." My hometown newspaper. And my immediate reaction in that moment was like, where's the hope? Like, this is what it's going to be for the rest of my life. How am I ever supposed to get past this? I might as well just, go back to muscle memory and feed that numbing feeling. I mean, that was the moment of thought. And working with Trevor was around, hey, no, we're not up, we're not down. It is just here. There's no negative mindset moving forward. And from that point, and I was nowhere near as good as Russell was with it. I would not allow negative information to creep in. And it really pushed me forward. I had a choice every morning to wake up in a positive and healthy mood. That was my choice.
And Russ has lost his spiritual coach. Trevor passed away.
I do think that played a huge impact. And I've been one of the most on my soapbox talking about it. Of course, you got to go out and perform. And I thought he did last year. I thought he was very good in the red zone. The touchdown pass against Buffalo to the corner to Cortland Sutton was one of the best throws I've ever seen from a quarterback. And I thought he was getting better. And I just
But does Sean just not like? I mean, does it come down to I just don't like you?
You love your quarterback. If you're an offensive play caller, and he just did not like the way he went about his business. You talked about the Detroit game over Thanksgiving, and just the around Christmas or something and just the berating of him on what to do down there.
Well, he just beat the Chiefs, and then they said, "Hey, we want you to kind of help us with your contract here."
Yeah, it wasn't a match made in heaven. What they've given up in terms of for Russell Wilson, you got to look at what they've given up for Sean Payton. They gave up the draft pick. They didn't have a second-round draft pick for him. They're paying him a ton of money. He goes and just kind of poo-poos on the quarterback and trade that his general manager made for before he got there 2 years previous. It doesn't seem like there is anything positive coming out of Denver right now, and that includes the Sean Payton scenario. Because guess what? Russell Wilson's gone. So this honeymoon's going to be short-lived if things start spiraling pretty quickly like they have with Sean Payton. There hasn't been a positive with Sean Payton since he got there. So let's not act like, oh, now it's going to change. There's no evidence that points to anything positive happening in Denver with Sean Payton to this point yet.
How does their GM keep his job?
That was a great point you guys made about the resume. I mean, I thought, how do you hand a resume in like that and go, Nathaniel Hackett, that right there's a fireable offense. The Russell Wilson trade for amount you gave up. Realistically, you could look at Sean Payton and what you gave up to get him. Why give up a draft pick for a coach and then take on all that money and then have to be so bad? It's very interesting. It fits in line with what maybe because of the dysfunction around ownership. It was so up and down on who's going to own it, who doesn't, and they kind of got lost in the mix a little bit. And maybe now there's a little bit more of a focal point. I don't know. Ryan
Leaf, former number 2 overall pick, 1998 draft, joining us here in studio. If the Bears take Caleb Williams, ...
Mm-hmm.
Finish that.
If they take him, I would be. You better be under the understanding that you're going to sit him this year, and that's not going to happen. So
why would you sit him?
Well, because 75% of what he made him so great in college is not transferable to the NFL. He's not going to be able to do that. He can't do what he did in college 75% of the time and be successful at the NFL level. He can do the 25% part at the NFL level, but he needs some time. He needs to get under center. He needs to understand how to throw on time, on platform, from the pocket. What he can do off platform is what makes him so exciting, because he may be one of the most talented quarterbacks in this year's draft and many in the past year's draft. But he is a guy that I don't think can be a starter on day one. And I think they wanted to do that with Justin Fields, but like any team that drafts any quarterback in the top 5, you're expected to play immediately. And unfortunately, I don't think he's a starting quarterback this year. I think the two guys that I would put some faith in to be a starting quarterback this year would be probably Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix Jr. Those are the two guys I could see being a first-round pick that could start this season.
Not Drake May.
No, I got Drake May as a second-round guy. I see him in very same mold as Will Levis, which clearly worked out well for Will. None of the anchor he had to carry from being a first-round pick. Got the opportunity to sit, and when he took the opportunity, made the most of it, he's now their franchise quarterback. I see him very similar mold, those two.
You love Penix.
I do love Michael Penix Jr. And it's tough for me to say, being a Washington guy, in Washington State. So I just think he is the most accurate down-the-field passer I've seen come out of college, and I can't tell you when.
But you think he could start?
Yeah, I think he could be a starting quarterback depending on what scheme he gets in. And the good thing for him is that not a lot of people are giving him a ton of credence. I think he may have moved the needle a bit at the combine, because he was special. He has the strongest arm of all the quarterbacks in the field this year. He's the most accurate down the field. He is a winner. The thing that was weighing him down was the medicals. People kept going back to that. 2 catastrophic injuries that ended season in Indiana. Well, he passed the medicals with flying colors. I didn't get injured during college, yet I got injured immediately in my second year in the NFL. You have no idea how that's going to play out. If you're going to start registering injury, being injury prone, you're going to go crazy thinking about all that stuff. So yeah, he's my number one guy. I've been on him for 2 years now, and I haven't moved off my spot. The national championship is going to be something that's going to weigh him down a little bit because of how good the defense was.
Well, they under pressure, he didn't do well at all.
No, but I don't know if there's a more of a counter or polarizing difference of a national semifinal game to how good he was to how bad he was in the national championship.
Yeah.
And that could be a little bit concerning. It was the worst possible time for him to have his worst game as a
But
that
was an elite defense. That was a spectacular defense. And then you got J.J. McCarthy. I'm fixated on J.J. McCarthy. I think
it's the most fascinating part of it.
I don't get it.
I get why people would think he could be good. He's a 5-star kid out of Illinois. He goes to Michigan. He's lost 3 games his entire career in high school and college. He's a winner. But how can a guy who's Superman for you in a game, let's say against Penn State, where Jim Harbaugh he's out and suspended, they don't ask him to throw the ball once in the second half. Yeah. I know he was banged up a little bit, but I mean, I don't care. There's something that throws me off a little bit with that I'd be like, well, do we venture to risk a first-round draft pick on a guy that can be literally put on the shelf for a half against one of your biggest rivals in conference play? So I have him as a second-round guy. Again, we all know that there are not 32 necessarily first-round grades to go around. The quarterbacks are always given more. I think Penix Jr. could easily be a guy that we see what Baltimore did a few years back with Lamar Jackson, jumped back up into the first round, got a guy with the 5th-year option. I think Penix could be that guy late in the first round. Wouldn't surprise me if J.J. McCarthy goes earlier than that. I don't know if it's necessarily warranted, but again, if you fall in love with somebody, they'll go do it.
He's Ryan Leaf. He'll be in this chair coming up on Friday. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you.
Good to see you, too.
We'll take a break. Phone calls coming up. Back after this.